What's going to be the main event for UFC 332, October 3rd in Utah? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So a bit weird by the UFC here. This is what the Utah card looks like right now. UFC 332, October 3rd, Delta Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. We know the UFC loves going there. Utah treats them very well from what I understand. And that's why it's become kind of like an annual destination for the promotion. And we'll go over the card in a second here. You can get a quick glance at it right now. But they announced everything for UFC 333 on the UFC 330 broadcast. And look at this card. This is actually solid. You got Volkan Evoyev, Jan and Dvalishvili, Loner Kavanaugh and Temirov is going to be fun. Volkov and Kuniev will be a fun one at heavyweight. Aaron Pico, Arnold Allen, Reyes Mirzakanov, Abus fighting Cam Roston. Pretty much every fight on this card is solid. And this is typical for the UFC going to the Middle East. We know they like stacking the cards, whether it's a numbered event or a fight night. This card looks awesome. The problem is what's going on with Utah? What main event is going to be on this card? What are they going to add to this card? I'm not sure. I'll be honest. We can go through some theories right now, but I have kind of been poking around and asking, and I have not heard much. I think if the UFC had it their way, this card would have Sean Strickland and Nasruddin Imavov or Sean Strickland against Chimaev or whoever for this main event on this card, just because they need a title fight, you would think, for a numbered event. But my understanding is I don't think Strickland's going to be ready for that card. I think there's still some issues with his shoulder, which is understandable. He's had a lot of shoulder issues over the last little bit. So I don't know if that's an option. I'm not saying it's not an option, but as of right now, from what I'm hearing, I don't think Strickland will be the main event. And I do believe it will be Imavov, not Khamzat Chimaev is my understanding. But again, we'll sort of see what happens there. But let's go kind of through every division right now and play process of elimination. Obviously, Joshua Van and Pantoja headlining UFC 331 in LA. So that's not happening. We know Petr Yan and Merab is going to be at 333. Volkanovski going to be fighting on 333 as well. Gaethje already said he's not fighting till 2027. So that's out of the running right now. We've got Islam just fighting last weekend. He's taken some time off, obviously. By the way, some interesting talk about who his next opponent could be. Heard a few interesting things that I will discuss on the live stream on Thursday. Like I mentioned, Strickland possibly an option, but I don't think that's going to happen. Carlos Ulberg, I believe, is still injured. Now, do they do an interim title fight? That could be an option, right? And what would that look like? Who's available right now? Is it Yuri and Paulo Costa? Yuri's coming off a loss. I don't think it really makes sense for him to be fighting for a title again. Khalil Roundtree, what's the status of that injury that he had that took him out of Abu Dhabi? He's also coming off a loss, so I'd have a hard time seeing him fight for a title. Ankalaev's coming off a win. Do you do Ankalaev and someone in that division right now? Maybe Ankalaev and Paulo Costa for an interim title. Does that make sense? Jamal Hill's moved up to heavyweight. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with Khalil Roundtree. Does Navajo Sterling fight Ankalaev for an interim title? I don't know. There's a lot of options right now, possibly, about what could happen there. Right now, my brain is sort of telling me as a leading candidate, I think it could be an interim title fight. And I don't really think that's needed. When did Ulberg win the title? It was earlier this year. I know he's out for a while, or at least we don't know an exact timeline of when he's coming back. I wanted to get the exact date. My brain's going to April. Is that right? Or is that a little bit later? When was that fight with Yuri? Yeah, it was in April. Okay, good. See, I'm getting older, but my memory not going too bad. So, yeah, I could think that to me seems like the most obvious option is like an interim title fight at light heavyweight, making sense. Heavyweight, I don't think they're going to put a big fight like Aspinall and Gane, which assuming that's next on this card, especially on somewhat short notice. I mean, we're coming up to we're past the midway point of August. This card's in October. It would be just over a month. And a month and a half, basically, until that event. I doubt Aspinall's not fighting on that card. Dern just fought, obviously. Valentina and Natalia Silva, that's another fight I could see happening. Now, I don't think the UFC is comfortable making that the main event. That could be a possibility because, again, I don't know what they're going to do here. I would say there's a strong possibility. Just, again, I haven't heard anything about this, but I would say strong possibility that Valentina and Natalia Silva's on that card. I just don't think they want that as the main event, or that will be the main event. So that would just be a guess of that being on that card. And then with Kayla and Amanda, you got to be really careful with Kayla, right? Coming off a pretty serious injury. Again, it's kind of short notice right now. We're about a month and a half away from that event. That seems a little too soon for Kayla to fight. Maybe not. Money talks. You never know. But I do wonder, a big fight like Kayla and Amanda, that seems more like a New York fight, or maybe a fight towards the end of the year. Am I wrong about that, guys? You let me know in the comments. So I don't think Kayla and Amanda Nunes will be on that. I do think Valentina and Silva will be. And like I said, as far as a main event goes, I think an interim title fight might be the answer here to that. Now, the UFC could come out of left field and throw something our way. Maybe Oliveira fights and defends his BMF title. I don't know. I really don't know. They could just pull something out of left field and have like a non-title fight as a main event. They're going to have to do that eventually, I think, because they just don't have a lot of options right now. Again, I just went through all the divisions. Let me know in the comments if there's something I'm missing, but I just don't think there's like a clear-cut like title fight right now that makes a ton of sense other than Valentina and Silva. And like I said, I think if the UFC had it their way, that fight's not the main event. They'll find something else to use with that. Again, the BMF title could be another option, but I'm even thinking at lightweight right now, like who would Charles fight? Do you sign Usman or Magomedov right away and get him to fight Charles for a BMF belt? I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to spitball here and think of some options that would make any sort of sense right now. I could see them adding like a big fight to this event, but like I've mentioned in previous videos, and I mentioned this for UFC 330, they don't really make big fights on short notice anymore. I mean, the closest thing we've had recently was King Green and Terrence McKinney on UFC 329, but that I wouldn't even consider that like a big fight. That's a fun fight. That's a fan-friendly fight. We might get one of those for this card, but you just don't see the UFC making a lot of big name main, like not even main events, but just big name fights on short notice anymore. That just doesn't happen. I don't know why. You just don't see that too often, right? Like again, they'd never replace the Aaron and Jasmine fight on UFC 330. They're just like, whatever. So I don't know, but I think as it stands right now, and let's go through the card, Talbot and Davison Figueroa, am I wrong about this, guys? I don't really see the point of this fight other than keeping Talbot active. I'm surprised Talbot didn't get booked shortly after that last win. I believe he had a kid. Someone mentioned that. I have to look into that, but I believe that Peyton Talbot, actually, you know what? Let me just double check that. Become a father. There's no verified announcement confirming that he's actually expecting a child becoming a father. Okay, so better stay away from that. I'm not sure why he's been off for so long, but remember he beat Cejudo in his last fight. That was a pretty big win. And now he's fighting Davison Figueroa. It's like, what are we doing? Like, I think at this point, we kind of know Davison Figueroa, not much of a threat. And even that's a rumor still. Not much of a threat at 135. He's going to be 39 in December. I just don't really see the point in doing this fight. Talbot probably wins, unless like he's somehow regressed. But I would like to see Talbot fight someone a little bit tougher. If anything, I think they should have done Talbot and David Martinez and gave Dan Ige someone else. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. So there's that. Parkin and Walker is just like a par for the course heavyweight fight at this point. I'm curious to see Walker at heavyweight. Will that chin improve with the fact that he's not cutting as much weight? A little bit intrigued to see Walker at heavyweight. That's about it. But Mick Parkin doesn't do a whole lot for me. Goder and Kopylov will be fun. I do, again, want Goder to have some harder competition here. I don't know if Kopylov really fits that bill. And then Correa and Rodriguez will be a fun one at flyweight. That's a cool fight. But we've got 4 fights, and we're about a month and a half out, and I just don't know, like, what they're going to add to this card. Like, I even kind of looking at the divisions, like, what big fights need to be made at this point? Like, I'd have to go through the entire roster and kind of dissect it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Again, to answer my own question in this video, what's the main event going to be? Like I said, I think it might be an interim, and I don't have any insight into this. No one's told me this is the case, but I'm just guessing right now. I am guessing that it will be Shevchenko and Silva on this card, and then they'll have like another title fight to headline it that would be a little bit more noteworthy. Like I said, an interim title fight I think would make a lot of sense at 205 while Carlos Ulberg recovers right now. So we'll see. But yeah, I kind of feel bad for people in Utah looking at UFC 333 going, hey, I wanted that card. I wanted to get 2 title fights and a bunch of fun matchups here, right? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening here. Just wanted to get this video out now because they might announce something here soon, but a little bit interesting. They announced most of the fights for 333 before 332. I've said it before, this new Paramount era with the UFC, they just seem really disorganized and showing with the fact that they've announced one card and not announced much for this event. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think the main event's going to be for UFC 332? What should it be? What makes sense to you? Again, going by kind of the context of they don't usually add big fights together on somewhat short notice here. I guess it's not totally short notice, but again, a month and a half, that's not super ideal for a lot of fighters. Let me know what you think. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @LynchOnSports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.